Good morning, everyone. How you doing? Good morning. Let me first congratulate the officers. Thank you very much. I'm going to come back to you in just a minute, but to Dr. Smith and Dr. Robbie Bean, if Dr. Bean is in the room, I don't know. But I want to thank you for taking the courage, the time, and the leadership to revitalize this venerable organization. The NAACP since 1909 has stood in the gap for the African American community, for the ideals of America. And without you, quite frankly, it's been a shame not to have you. And so I'm honored that you have taken the leadership to revitalize. And to the officers, I was 26 years old when I went to the Urban League. As a young father, new baby at home, my first paycheck bounced, to give you an idea of the trouble that the Urban League was in. But the one thing that had me stick to it was how embarrassed I was that we as a community had allowed the organization to fall in such neglect. And after it had stood in the gap for us for so long. And so I thank you for taking the courage to step up. And I think we owe our new officers and leaders a round of applause. In 1909 and 1910, when the NAACP and the Urban League were founded, respectively, it was a tremendous transitionary time for African Americans and indeed all of America. African Americans were making the greatest migration from the South to the North in an effort to assimilate into the economic and the educational mainstream of America. It was a time of transition. We were coming off of the plantations, primarily as sharecroppers, not as slaves, but as sharecroppers, after having been slaves up until 1863. It was a time for us to begin to assimilate and become a part of the economic mainstream. What we found was absolute terror. It was an era of the greatest lynching of African Americans in our history. But it was also a time for us to begin to change the course of time forever for African Americans, and again for America. Today is not much different. We still continue to fight to get a piece of the pie, to not so much be counted as the people who promote diversity do, but to be included, to be situated at the table so that we can continue to play a vital role in the economic and the educational mainstream of America. That's why it's so important for the NAACP to survive, and so important for the Urban League to survive, and so important for us to elect the next mayor who understands that this is not about counting people in the room, but it's about establishing the values that say simply, who's missing at the table? Who needs to be here as we make critical decisions that impact our lives in this city? I, again, went to the Urban League at age 26. I was committed to the vision of making sure that we had a place at the table. Not so much that anybody asked for special treatment or for a handout, but simply to be included in the room as decisions were made, and that as we work to create jobs in Denver, that we were there. That we had an equal voice as everyone else. Businesses were given opportunities to participate in the economic mainstream, that we were there. The next mayor of this city will have a tremendous opportunity to ask one very simple question. Who's missing? Who needs to be in the room? It's not a program. It's a value, which should be woven through every major issue that is discussed in the city, whether it's about the quality and the performance of schools in the city, whether it's about who should be participating in contracts and business opportunities in the city. As we try to close $100 million gap, who needs to be in the room to talk about how do we do that and we do it effectively so that everyone is included? At the end of the day, the reason I decided to run for mayor is simply that I recognize that if this city is to move forward, I have to be at the table, you have to be at the table. We are all Denver. And it's not based on race, but it's based on perspective. It's based on every corner of the city, whether you live in Harvey Park or Green Valley Ranch, Sloan's Lake or Crestmore Downs, Park Hill or Sunnyside. We all deserve to be at the table. This is our city. And no one deserves, not one neighborhood should be left behind. Let me just close with this one statement. I'll never forget the conversation with my children and wife when I decided to run for mayor. And I asked them for their permission. And my children looked at me and said, absolutely not. True story. But then my son asked the question, why do you want to be mayor? And it gave me the opportunity to look at him and say, as a young father, as the 10th of 10 children of a single mother, this is my chance to change the course of time for not only you, but for all of Denver. This is our opportunity to stop counting heads and to start counting the values of being inclusive in this city. I'm Michael Hancock, I'm running for mayor, and I ask for your support on May 3rd. Thank you very much.